You are sitting in a room with a billion strangers. You do not know their names. You do not speak their language. You have never met them and you never will. But tonight, in a single second, every single one of you will scream. That is the World Cup, and science cannot fully explain why it does what it does to your brain. Not the excitement, not the passion. The actual neurological event happening inside your skull right now as you think about your team, your flag, your colors. Something is firing in there that has nothing to do with football, something far older, something that was never meant for a stadium. Here is what nobody tells you. The World Cup does not just entertain your brain, it hijacks it. And the mechanism it uses is the same one that makes certain substances nearly impossible to walk away from. Let us start at the beginning. Your brain runs on a molecule called dopamine. You have heard of it. You probably think it is the pleasure chemical, the reward signal, the reason things feel good. But that is not quite right. Neuroscientist Kent Berridge at the University of Michigan spent years separating dopamine from actual pleasure, and what he found changed everything. Dopamine, it turns out, is not about feeling good. It is about wanting. It is the molecule of anticipation, of craving, of not yet. Think about that for a second. Your brain does not release dopamine when you get what you want. It releases dopamine in the moments before. The chase, the uncertainty, the not knowing, that is when your dopamine system fires hardest. Now think about a World Cup match. 90 minutes of not knowing, plus stoppage time, plus the possibility of extra time, plus penalties. Your brain is not watching a football match. Your brain is being marinated in dopamine for 2 hours straight, and it cannot tell the difference between this and the most powerful reinforcement loop ever designed. Neuroscientist Wolfram Schultz mapped dopamine release in response to unpredictable rewards. When a reward is certain, dopamine barely moves. When a reward is random, unpredictable, possible but not guaranteed, dopamine spikes to extraordinary levels. This is the same mechanism behind slot machines, the same mechanism behind social media likes. Your brain is not built to resist it. And the World Cup is the most unpredictable reward system ever constructed. Any team can beat any team on any day. The greatest players in the world miss open goals. Referees make calls that defy logic. A nation of 60 million people can be undone by a single deflection off a goalkeeper's boot. You cannot predict it, and that is exactly why you cannot stop watching. But dopamine is only the beginning. There is another chemical at work here, one that is older, stranger, and far more powerful in its social effects. Oxytocin, sometimes called the bonding molecule, released by your brain during physical touch, during eye contact, during moments of shared experience with people you trust. Here is what is extraordinary. Research published in the journal Psychoneuroendocrinology found that fans watching their national team play together in a group, even strangers seated next to each other in a stadium, showed measurable increases in oxytocin. Not because they knew each other, not because they had any prior relationship, simply because they were experiencing the same emotional moment at the same time. Your brain cannot tell the difference between a real social bond and a shared emotional experience with a stranger. It bonds you anyway, it trusts them anyway. For 90 minutes, the person next to you in the stands is, neurologically speaking, your family. This is not a metaphor, this is chemistry. And it explains something about the World Cup that the sports statistics cannot. Why fans in countries that have never won a single tournament still weep when their team is knocked out. Why people who do not normally follow football at all find themselves unable to look away. The game is not hooking you with results. It is hooking you with the oldest social wiring your species carries. Now we have to go back, far back. Anthropologist Robin Dunbar, who is famous for his research on the size of human social groups, has argued that large-scale human cooperation is one of the most unusual things in the animal kingdom. Most species cooperate in small units, family groups, hunting parties, maybe a few dozen individuals. Humans do something almost no other animal does. We cooperate with millions of strangers. We build nations. We share identities. We fight and die for flags. How does a brain built for a village of 150 people suddenly feel something for a nation of 200 million. It needs a trigger, a symbol, a moment where the abstract becomes visceral. This is what the World Cup does that no political speech, no national anthem ceremony, no government program has ever been able to replicate. It makes you feel your national identity in your body, not as an idea, as a physiological event. Your heart rate rises, your palms sweat, your hands grip the edge of your seat. The nation stops being a concept and becomes a sensation. Neuroscientist Jonathan Turner at the University of California has studied how collective effervescence, a term first coined by sociologist Emil Durkheim, activates the same neural pathways as religious experience. Durkheim watched crowds of humans in ritual gatherings and noticed something strange. The individuals disappeared. Something larger appeared in their place. He called it the social organism, the feeling of being absorbed into something bigger than yourself. You have felt this, not just at football, at concerts, at protests, at funerals, at moments where the individual self dissolves and something shared takes its place. The World Cup engineers this feeling every 4 years on a planetary scale. There has never been anything like it in human history, not even close. The gladiatorial contests of Rome drew tens of thousands. The Olympic Games of ancient Greece unified city-states, but no single event before the modern World Cup has ever simultaneously activated the limbic systems of 3.5 billion human beings with the same emotional content. That number is not a marketing figure. That is the number of people who watched the 2022 World Cup. 3.5 billion people, craning toward a screen, dopamine surging, oxytocin rising, tribal identities blazing. Your brain was built to care about a tribe of 150 people maximum. It is now being asked to care about 200 million. It does not know the difference. It feels everything. And here is where it gets stranger still. Your brain does not require you to be physically present for any of this to happen. Research by sports psychologists Daniel Wan and Nyla Branscombe, who have spent decades studying fan identification, found that the neural and physiological responses of fans watching a match on television are nearly identical to those of fans physically inside the stadium. Same cortisol spikes during tense moments. Same testosterone fluctuations after wins and losses. Same activation of the mirror neuron system, the part of your brain that makes you flinch when you watch someone else take a blow. When a striker misses from the spot in the final minute of a penalty shootout, you miss it with him. Neurologically, your motor system fires, your breath stops, your muscles tighten as though the kick came from your own foot. This is why people throw televisions. This is why grown adults cry in their living rooms for men they have never met. This is why you feel physically sick when your team loses, because to your brain, something real just happened to your body. The World Cup is not a sporting event that happens to produce emotion. It is an emotion machine that happens to use sport as its operating system. And every 4 years, your brain surrenders to it completely, knowing what is coming, doing it anyway. Because whatever dopamine is chasing, whatever oxytocin is bonding, whatever ancient tribal circuitry is firing every time your goalkeeper dives to his right, it feels more real than almost anything else in modern life. And tonight, in a room with 1 billion strangers, when that moment comes, you are going to scream. Just like they knew you would.